It's time for 41 is the Mic, a weekly Chiefs podcast with Nick Jacobs of KSHB 41 and Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mic starts now.
Yes, everyone, it has been a while since we've had a non-victory edition of 41 is the Mic, but that's what we've got. I'm Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest, alongside, once upon a time, novelty t-shirt enthusiast Nick Jacobs. I assume you still are a novelty t-shirt enthusiast, but your undefeated t-shirt will be retiring, correct?
I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
See how it goes?
We'll see how it goes. Maybe just start a whole new trend.
I guess we'll see what Creed Humphrey does with his t-shirt as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, both yours t-shirt and Creed's t-shirt, I think, were pretty key to this 9-0 start.
Yeah, I'm sure they were all the difference that made it happen. Wasn't the preparation or execution that the team put into it, or play calling, or the chemistry, or anything like that. It was all Creed Humphrey's t-shirt and my t-shirt.
I will take that over some of the other thoughts that I've seen expressed about this game tonight, and I'm just going to remind everybody off the top, Nick. I'll probably have a rant later on, so if you want to stick around for a rant,
get it out of your system now.
No, I kind of want to everybody to stick around for the rant, and I'm just going to try and chill myself. But I'm going to remind everybody, you're 9-1. Chiefs are 9-1. They still have the number one seed in the AFC. Mm-hmm. And they've done that while admittedly not playing really well at times, and I am of the belief that they are going to play better later on.
You hope they learn from it and they're able to do that and execute it. So we'll see what happens in the weeks ahead after the Panthers, of course.
Well, let's kind of start there as we start digesting this 30-21 loss to the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the keys to the game, Nick, big plays, a lot of them, but it just seemed like all the big plays went Buffalo's way.
Yeah, I would say a big part of it, obviously, comes down to Josh Allen. Josh Allen is he's the guy that made it happen. So when the Bills needed something to occur, something to happen, Josh was the one who took off with his feet or made a really impressive throw. And that's why Josh Allen, I consider one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league. He could easily be 2 potentially. Just depends on kind of what the day is and what the defense is and all that type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, Josh was a gamer today. Josh Allen went out there and he showcased his ability. He was determined to go out there and win this football game for his team and to give them the confidence they needed and to be the spark plug that they needed to succeed and to beat the Chiefs and to try to take some doubt away from his teammates and give them the confidence that they can beat Kansas City in the postseason. And you saw a very motivated Buffalo team out there.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a perfect game by Buffalo, but you got to give credit to Josh Allen because, yes, I mean, the decisions that he made in the game as far as just even, whether it was the throw, whether it was the run, some of the throws that he made. I mean, I know a lot of people are getting on Najee Johnson on that throw to Amari Cooper. I don't see how you defend that throw to Amari Cooper. It was a perfectly thrown ball.
No, that was a drop, and he dropped that in a bucket. Like, I mean, that was right in the left-hand breadbasket, near the sideline. There's not many corners that are getting that unless they're got the receiving ability, Odell Beckham, that can leap up and one hand palm it over it, and that's not realistic. That's not the real world.
I mean, I saw a lot of people, thinking, well, hey, Trent McDuffie makes that play. I don't think Trent McDuffie makes that play either. I mean, it was just too perfectly of a thrown ball.
Correct. That is correct, sir.
And that run, I mean, as much as even if you want to hate it, you gotta love that and respect that run at the end because that was just a heck of a play. And I mean, that's Josh Allen. I mean, he's a gamer, man.
Yeah. So when do you want me to start diagnosing that play and some of the other points? I'll do it.
Well, let's go into it. Let's start there because that was the backbreaker.
All right. So on the backbreaker play, what they were actually trying to do there, and as you retweeted, when I said, look, I was like, Josh Allen. I bet Josh Allen was the run with the ball. Because Josh Allen's a gamer. Josh Allen wants the ball. And if you've ever watched the movie Replacements with Shane Falco, and Gene Hackman says winners want the ball. And Josh Allen wants to be a winner, and he's been a winner at various points in his career. So, like, he wants that football in his hand, and he wants to take off running with it because he wants to be the hero just for one day. So he's gonna do it. And so what they were doing on the play is they had double mesh concepts or double crossers. However it translates for you, that's essentially what it is. So they had two different receivers at 4 levels, all crossing with each other, trying to see if they could get a pick route in one of the 4 routes. And then they had a halfback out in the flats. So Josh could check on the halfback, see if it was there to dump down. Were any of those 4 routes open? But what I personally genuinely think I think he knew the second out of that huddle. He's like, okay, if they run this, I'm just going to run it. And at the beginning, I don't think he was trying to go for a touchdown. I think he's just trying to get the first down, run more clock, and just keep the ball in their hands and keep it away from Mahomes. And instead, he saw that thing part like the Red Sea, and he's like, I'm going for it. And then that's what he did. And the Chiefs were not able to tackle him, and they didn't have the angles to be able to tackle him well. And Josh Allen is a massive human being that unless you're a guy that's got a pretty big stature, even Chris Jones is having trouble trying to tackle him in the backfield for a couple sacks just because of how strong and powerful Josh Allen is. People do not give that man enough credit for how he is. And Josh was not going to be denied, and he went in and took it for a touchdown. And, and there's probably in their mind, they probably now feel like they're back at 0 and that they redeem themselves from that divisional loss and reminding themselves again that, they can hang with the Chiefs and they can beat the defending Super Bowl champions. And they were a very motivated team from the start.
Yeah, you've hit on a bunch of things that were fairly common and prevalent through a lot of the game. And, you mentioned, obviously there's another play on which we can talk about the mesh routes and the crossers trying to create a pick play, because that obviously worked out pretty well for Buffalo. But on that play in particular, obviously the routes cleared the middle of the field and there was nothing there. There was nothing to stop Josh Allen once he decided, because like you said, it just parted like the Red Sea. There was nobody in the middle of the field. And the Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo is not a big spy guy. They've done it a few times this year. Leo Chenal's done it, a few times. I think they got a lot of guys who can spy, but they didn't really do it much tonight, did they?
I'm not surprised. Because if you want to do that, I understand saving it for the playoffs.
Yep.
I understand.
I was going to go next to. I think we're on the same page there.
I'm saying I understand if you want to save Jaden Hicks for the playoffs, or you want to save somebody else for the playoffs, whether it's Drew Tranquil or, Justin Reed or somebody who's a physical type of hitter, but also has the athletic ability to get the proper angles to encourage Josh Allen to stay in the pocket. If the Chiefs do play Josh Allen again in the playoffs, then that having a spy is going to be the number one thing. That is the very number one thing that they're going to have to adjust from their game plan tonight. And if they don't, then their pass rush better be getting there quickly, and or they better be real sound on how quickly they get there on their blitzes, because there's a couple times the routes are starting to open up, and if Josh Allen has a tick longer, he's looking at that area, that turns into an explosive play instead of him having to hurry the throw a couple times. So, Steve Spagnuolo and them accomplished what they want to rush Josh Allen's decision, but there were times where Allen's going to see that on tape, and he's going to think if they play again, he's like, all right, I'm going to hold that a tick longer and take that hit, and we're going to get past them in his mindset.
Yeah, it was one of those things I was thinking about watching that final play as they were lining up for it, as it was unfolding, and then after it climaxed, was that I just don't know if that play is going to be good for Buffalo in the long term, because the next time that Josh Allen sees that scenario, and if it is in the playoffs this year, the Chiefs are going to play it differently. He's not going to see the same defense again, right?
The reality is this: whenever it's 3rd and short or 4th and short, Josh Allen wants to run with the ball. That's what I saw in the past because I've watched all the Buffalo games this year. He wants the ball in his hands on 3rd and short or 4th and short. He'll do a QB sneak. He'll take off and scramble to his right. He'll have him run some routes that clear out the area that he's wanting to run to. But from tape study, I mean, that was pretty apparent. But what I will say what the Chiefs did a really good job of, because I want to start a positive here on defense, is like that Chiefs run defense was fantastic. For what Buffalo can do against other opponents this season, the way they bottled up James Cook, man, like that took a lot of effort collectively by them. And they did one heck of a job on run defense. Like they sold out to stop the run, burned them a couple times, and that'll be the thing that the Bills will try next time around if they play them, is they will try to use play action pass more and try to get the Chiefs to bite up to throw over top of them. So and we'll see what happens in terms of injuries, that if they do get to play again, because they didn't have Dalton Kincaid today, they didn't have Keon Coleman, and that game today probably goes a little bit differently if they have their full complement of weapons. But you could say the same thing for the Chiefs. If they get Pacheco back, that's different on their end on offense. If they have Hollywood Brown when that next time rolls around, it could be just as different for them.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Cook, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, 9 carries, 20 yards, longest run of 6. The longest run of any of the Buffalo's backs was 8 yards. I mean, just an absolutely fantastic job of the run defense once again. Even with Josh Allen and with his penchant to run. I mean, I'm not saying, hey, take out that last play, but take out that last play. Before that run, Josh Allen was 11 carries for 29 yards. I mean, they did their job. They broke down badly at an inopportune time, but even as far as bottling up Josh Allen, the run defense did its job. I mean, that's something I think you can at least bank on for the next time that these two teams meet.
We'll see, because I mean, they may not want to run the ball as much, and they may want to get Cook out on the flats and into space and into screens, maybe some running back screens, maybe use him as a wide receiver. So I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that the Bills have if they face each other down the road.
That was another interesting thing. I mean, the Chiefs also, I mean, they were not afraid. I know at least one time that the broadcast mentioned it, Trent McDuffie was guarding James Cook out of the backfield. I mean, the Chiefs were cognizant of that. I mean, they were not about to just let James Cook have some favorable matchups in the passing game and pass coverage.
No, you can't do that. He was their most explosive weapon on the field. As weird as that sounds to say, I'm not kidding you. He was their most explosive weapon on the field the entire day, and they did a good job keeping him in check.
Okay, so you got to check Josh Allen. What else does this defense need to take away from this game today? Not only just for the rest of the season, but like, again, I guess if they see this team in January.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs have to, whether it's Charles Omenihu coming back or something else, from a pass rush perspective, they've got to be much better. They've got to be able to be able to really make Josh Allen uncomfortable, stay disciplined in their lanes, because there was a couple times I know the broadcast featured it, but you can see it in real time to where somebody get out of lane and you're hoping the defensive tackle replaces Karlaftis, spin moving inside, and Wharton tried his best, I think, to get over there as quickly as he could, but like it wasn't. If you're going to do stuff like that, even if you switch it up and everything, and make sure that O-linemen can't get into the same pass set rhythm, you still got to be able to have equal or same amount of athletic ability to kind of swap on some of that. And you can't be dropping the defensive ends back into zone coverage, whether it's Felix or whoever. Like you're just, the only reason you do that, in my opinion, is if they become the spy. But I think you need somebody more athletic to be the spy. And if there's anything I hope Steve Spagnuolo takes away above anything else, have a spy for Josh Allen. I know that may not be ideal. I know that may be annoying, but Josh Allen's legs were the difference between a win and a loss today for Kansas City. But they're going to have a lot of weapons that they may deal with next time around, and Steve Spagnuolo may not think that they're able to dedicate a resource to that. So that'll be another one of those chess match moves down the road. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs D-line, if they're able to have a better rush or collapse the pocket in more on Allen, I think Allen gets more frantic. And I think he makes even poorer throws than he did that one to Chamari Connor And I think like next time around, if there is that opportunity, I think the Chiefs could get a handful of turnovers off of it.
Okay, rein me in here if I'm being too hard on this particular player.
Okay.
But I felt like at times tonight that Chris Jones and just his, whether it's a little bit of his taking matters into his own hands or his efforts to try and get Josh Allen, and because there's no doubt, I mean, he has been thirsting for some sacks because he's disappointed in the front four and their production of doing exactly what you said, getting some pressure on the quarterback and getting some big plays made. I felt like Chris was a part of that breaking down, even though he was, blowing up some things in the middle of the field. There were too many times that it just seemed like, okay, Chris Jones got behind Josh Allen, and now Josh Allen, once he's got Chris Jones behind him, he was free to step up and make some plays.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see the coach's film on it and kind of see. But I do know once Chris did get behind him a couple times, that's when Josh was willing to take off at that point because he didn't have the threat of Chris's athletic ability to kind of corral him in and discourage him from running with the football. So I will take a look at that, and if I do see that, I will put that up there on the old X. But I don't want to say definitively that that's 100% that way because I just want to see the overall integrity of each rush and see what I think they were attempting to do, then see it versus what the coverage was and all that stuff to kind of get a better educated guess. Because that's one thing I will say on social media that a lot of people always like to do, and this is why I preface stuff the way I do on tweets, and I say, it looks like this, looks like that, because that's the way I see it. And then somebody will always respond and say, oh, it was definitely this. I'm like, dude, you and I don't have the playbook. We're not a coach on staff. That is not 100% guaranteed. It may be wrong on this. It may be wrong on that. Just like people on Twitter tonight are trying to come at me for Xavier Worthy and saying, they're like, oh no, that was on Mahomes, it was on this and that. I know what Mahomes said in the press conference. Mahomes is, I get that. What I said was in the moment, and on top of that, we don't definitively know because Mahomes, if he has to protect a receiver, he will. If he has to protect an offensive player, he will. That's what a leader does. So they don't want to rattle Worthy's confidence because Worthy made some plays in the game, and they want to continue to help him continue to grow and continue to build his confidence because you see what happens when confidence gets shattered, like it did for Kingsley Suamataia.
Yes, indeed, and I'm completely with you. I want to see more on the all 22. Maybe I'll feel differently about how the front four played, and particularly Chris. And I'm not saying Chris Jones played a bad game at all. Just there was a couple of times that, by my eye, that it just looked like once he got past Josh Allen, that's when Josh felt like he could step up and make some plays, and he did.
And that's where maybe having that spy in discourages that again and gives Chris the chance to grab a hold and toss him to the ground.
And if that's the defense exactly, I mean, if that's your backup for Chris Jones doing what Chris Jones does, that's a good move in my book.
Check and mate, sir. Check and mate if you do it right.
There you go.
Ta-da!
A lot of streaks came to an end tonight, Nick. One of them was the 30-game streak that this defense had of not giving up more than 28 points, going all the way back to, I think the last time was Eagles Super Bowl. It was the last time that they gave up more than 28 points in a game. To me, at least, that first look, I mean, everybody had a little bit of ownership. Everybody had some good and bad moments. I mean, I know Chamari Connor's drawing a lot of fire from both sides, has the interception, good play, had a bad penalty, had maybe a couple of missed tackles, but that seemed to be the way that it was going for the night for the Chiefs defensively. Am I wrong?
I mean, in terms of Chamari, look like there's a way that Chamari plays, and sometimes it's gonna be great, and sometimes it's gonna burn him a little bit by how he comes in and tries to make big hits at times, and maybe doesn't necessarily always come in under control. Like, I mean, that's just part of the ebbs and flows that you're gonna get with where his game's at right now. So, I mean, look, if that's not very high on my list of things that I'm like, hey, they need to probably work on if they play him in the playoffs again.
Last thought about on the defensive side, partly because we talked about this a lot the last couple of weeks. How much do you feel like that just the effort that the Chiefs expended over the last couple of games against Tampa, against Denver, and kind of maybe set up this game. That this was maybe a low energy, depleted Chiefs defense a little bit from an energy standpoint, just catching Buffalo at the time of right before their bye week when they wanted to exact some revenge on the Chiefs.
I mean, it could obviously play a factor in it. I'm not gonna discount it. I think that overall, collectively, the team, and this is something I think the coaching staff's gonna have to chat about in their meetings. And hey, if they happen to be listening to this podcast, feel free to bring it up. You're gonna call Matt and I, text us, email us. The PR has their contacts if you need to get a hold of us. But I do think that's something that collectively on offense and defense, they both need to kind of, what can they do to get both sides of the ball in games like this? Where do they create that spark a little bit quicker? Because the spark was there at various points for both sides of the ball. It took a while for them to get there. And is that something that's necessarily, like you said, based on the schedule? And if that's the case, there's really not much you can do about it. But if there's some things that they think that they can do when playoff time rolls around, and that they can kind of work and fix to be able to kind of light that fire a heck of a lot quicker, then that's something I think is worth them exploring over the rest of November and December to remember, hopefully.
That December to remember for sure. As we move over to the offensive side and maybe a bit of a transition here, this team obviously usually plays complementary football very, very well. Kind of got beat at that, I think, a little bit by Buffalo tonight. Offensive plays run 71-52 in favor of Buffalo. Buffalo had 3 possessions of more than 10 plays. That's usually the Chiefs factor. And, the Chiefs had the touchdown drive of 11 plays in the first half. They had a 10-play drive in the second half. They had another, 9-play, 40 yards off the interception in the first half. But, other than that, after that, several 3-and-outs for the Chiefs. 3 of those. They had a 2-and-out with the interception. Kind of include that one if you want to. This was not even though this Chiefs offense has struggled at times this season, they normally are able to at least sustain some drives. And tonight, it just, once again, it didn't seem like that was happening for them. And pressure on Mahomes right off the beginning of the game.
Yeah, so what teams are doing and what they're going to continue to do here in the weeks ahead, especially the Raiders, the Chargers, the Texans, the Steelers, the Browns will try it. And the Broncos will try it again if he's playing in that game. What they all are trying to collectively do is they're trying to make them uneasy and take them out of rhythm at the start. That is what they are trying to do. They are trying to make Mahomes uneasy at the tackle spots, and they are trying to make him want to speed up the clock, just like teams wanted to do with Alex Smith back in the day. And they're doing it. It's happening all over again for Mahomes now with the way the tackle situations are. And so what teams are wanting to do is they are wanting to disrupt the Chiefs' ability to create rhythm early on. So they are going at the tackles in a way, and they're going at Mahomes to where he's like, all right, here we go again. And then Mahomes is either having to try to move around in the pocket, and whenever you do that, he may take his eyes down off the field. And there's other times where if he takes off or he takes his eyes down off the field, some of those routes are developing, and they don't get the chance to fully develop. And so part of that, what the coaching staff is going to have to kind of figure out in their game plan, not necessarily against the Panthers, but down the road here, is there some quick hitting stuff they can do? Do they need to move the pocket? Is there some quick hitting stuff they need to do in that first 15 or in the first 3 drives to really kind of create this confidence for them? Because in the past, they would have a burst with Isaiah Pacheco in the run game. Then they would have a younger Travis Kelce that could really kind of move the chains and help get the rhythm going quickly, get Mahomes into the rhythm he wants. And then in the past, handful of years ago, they had Tyreek that if it wasn't working, you get it to Tyreek on a slant route or you get it on a vertical, he'll go chase it down and he'll make it happen. So what's happening is I just don't think some things are able to develop as quickly. And so this Chiefs offense, I want you to think of it like a lawnmower that won't start. And that chain, you're pulling the chain on the push mower and you're trying to get it cranked and going, and then it starts to go for a little bit, then it may sputter, and then you're like, okay, all right, maybe it just needs a little bit more primer, maybe there's a little bit more gas to it, and then you do it again and you're like, okay, it's starting up again, and then finally at some point it all works together, and then the lawnmower fires, and then that's what happened. That's what the Chiefs were on that fourth quarter drive when they made it 23-20 and they went down the field and just had this laser focus about them. That's where the coaching staff and that's where that offense needs to figure out, how do you capture that? How do you capture that quicker? How do you capture that sooner? And how do you put yourself in a favorable position to where you have that laser focus, that determination, and you can do that quicker in a game, in a first half, do that multiple times in the first half, do that multiple times in the second half, and really help that defense also have a little bit more of a spark to it, because the offense is getting in a rhythm, and they know the defense knows they can take some chances at times that right now they don't probably feel like they can.
Yeah, it's interesting to me looking back at the first 15, the scripted plays, and when you're looking at those, usually you're only looking at like first and second downs, third downs come off a different part of the script and everything, and the play sheet. But you look at those, I mean, obviously the Chiefs they made a concentrated effort to get Xavier Worthy going tonight, and I thought that was a good call because, to get him a couple of plays that he's comfortable with, things that are in his breadbasket, to just get him rolling, and that right off the bat, the run was a good play call as far as just getting him the ball in his hands and letting him do what he does. Even some of the pass plays, I think, once again, were what he does best. But it felt like, okay, did it come a little bit at the expense of Travis Kelce? Because Kelce had no catches in the first half. Outside of Worthy and Noah Gray, I think the Chiefs had 3 completions in the first half, and one of those was Mike Caliendo. I mean, it seemed as though that, maybe you got away from, the DeAndre Hopkins and the Travis Kelces, and getting Xavier Worthy going was important. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But does it hurt this team when maybe you don't get Travis Kelce involved in the first half?
That's a question I think only they can truly answer. But I do believe that if they can figure out a way for each person to be able, because I was curious to see how they're going to navigate having Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre, Travis, and Worthy all out there together at various points, and how they were going to go about that. Because I think they kind of missed a couple times the opportunity to use Kareem Hunt in the flats and kind of work, and kind of get the ball in his hands and kind of let him run over some people. Because the Buffalo Bills, they run a nickel. If I remember correctly from the next gen stat, they run their nickel defense. When they see 12 personnel, they run it. They run nickel defense 97% of the time. And the Chiefs run 12 personnel, I think 31% of the time this year is the stat that I saw. So, I mean, the interesting part of that is okay, so if you do that, where can you use, and that's where I kind of wonder a little bit with it, if and when Pacheco is able to come back, how can they use him and Kareem together? Is there a halfback screen here, or is there a misdirection with a halfback screen over here, to where you misdirect on the run and then here's a halfback screen to Kareem over here? I'm curious to see how they can try to utilize those two in the backfield together. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Kareem needs some touches taken off of him. He needs Pacheco back to kind of help preserve, because there's some times there where, like, hey, he did have some explosive runs and got some steam. I think you could see more of those if he's not having to do 20 to 30 touches a game on a regular basis.
There's one thing I do want to touch on, because it was obviously Noah Gray's second touchdown, but that formation with
the diamond formation.
The diamond formation, four out wide with Worthy was out there, Gray, Kelsey, and Juju. DeAndre Hopkins is on the opposite side. Hook that formation into my veins, Nick. I mean, that was just an absolute piece of art. I want to see that more.
Well, do you want to hear a little backstory on that one?
Do it. Absolutely.
Okay. So the first time I ever saw the diamond formation run, I call it the diamond formation. Some people call it quads. And
I stole you. See, quads is different to me. I mean, I like your diamond. I stole that. So I like your description of it.
So the diamond formation, the first time I ever saw it run was by Mark Mangino at KU back in like 08, 09. That was the first time I saw it. Coolest thing in the world. And then, so I know this is dumb and I'm going to say this and people are going to laugh and everything. But whenever I was dabbling in coaching at the youth level, I actually used that. I saw KU do that and I liked it. So we had a really good running back. And it's funny if high school kids watch this. He's a coach at Winnetonka now. High school football coach at Winnetonka, Chase Williams. I'm going to name drop him here. I think he's dead. Todd, listen to the podcast. Chase might too. I don't know. But I designed that diamond formation for him because I knew with his athletic ability, there was none of the kids were going to be overwhelmed at that youth level seeing that formation. And so there was route combinations I had off of it, and I had Chase on a vertical. And I remember we scored a touchdown, like a 50-yard touchdown, because Chris Bobie and the quarterback back then he could rocket launch that thing, and a kid his age shouldn't be able to throw that, but I knew those two together could make that happen. So anyways, we did that diamond formation, which I originally saw off KU. And then the next time I saw that diamond formation again was when the Colts ran it against the Chiefs in the 2013 wildcard game. It had finally made its way to the NFL from 09 and from seeing on the youth football field that we ran it to the 2013 Colts, and Andrew Luck ran it with Donald Brown. They essentially made it a wide receiver screen where there's three guys in front that can do a screen, and they got Donald Brown in there, got a touchdown off of it. Brandon Flowers got a concussion on the play. It's right there in front of me and everything. And but I finally saw the Chiefs run the diamond formation this week, and they've run it a time or two before. But I was glad to finally see that back, that they pulled that out of the playbook, and I'm like, look, that's a mismatch to have a diamond formation like that. That should be used on a regular basis inside the 10, because you take a wide receiver or a tight end or whoever, you isolate them on the opposite side, and you do that there. Then you have the four guys there, and you can either run a screen out of it. Like the Chiefs used it to space out the zone coverage and have a sit down route just right there. So defense gets overwhelmed. They get stretched four different ways, and then there's a sit down route right there in the middle for it. So, but I mean, there's so many things you can do off that, because I personally, whenever I was designing plays with it, I had like a bubble screen off of it with that. And then to see the Colts run it a handful of years later, I'm like, well, at least I'm not an idiot, because it's getting run in the NFL now. But then you can run like a scissors concept with it, and you can have another delayed route in front of it, depending how you want to do it. Or there's a variation of delayed routes you can do off of it that is going to be tough for any defense. And like Tony Romo said on the broadcast, you can't run man coverage against it, just because somebody's going to get picked on it. Somebody's going to get picked on it, just like Najee Johnson did against Curtis Samuel on that touchdown before Josh Allen's we can be heroes just for one day touchdown. And so like it's just, I don't know. I wandered too much, but I love seeing the formation, and I hope the Chiefs use it as much as they use the shovel pass.
I think that's awesome. No, I mean, I'm fascinated by that history. That's incredible. And we didn't talk about it as much, but obviously you brought it up. But so I just want to touch on it very, very quickly. That was a pick. I mean, I guess it's just how egregious was the pick.
Yeah, I mean, technically it was offensive pass interference. But am I saying that that's what lost them the game? No, there was a handful of plays that the Chiefs left on the field that if they don't, they can win that game, and Buffalo's the one having to chase them. So that's what you hope the Chiefs take away from this more than anything else going forward.
And it is hard to complain, because Chiefs love to rub some receivers and defensive backs running across too. So sometimes they get called, sometimes they don't. So
Yeah,
Just
it happens.
Depends on which side of history you're on, whether it's a pick or a rub. So.
Yes, exactly.
What are your kind of final thoughts on the offense? I mean, I was encouraged that you mentioned the workload that Kareem is getting. 14 carries tonight. He was stronger in the second half than he was in the first half. That's encouraging to me, considering that he'd been kind of on a downward trajectory as far as just efficiency and production and yards per carry, yards per touch, whatever you want to call it, missed tackles. Everything had been kind of trending downward. This looked like a kind of a bounce back to me, but what's your kind of just overall putting a bow on the offensive performance tonight and where they go from here?
So the biggest thing I'm going to say from an offense perspective is, like I talked about earlier, how do they find more ways to be just as efficient and effective as they did on that fourth quarter drive that made it 23-20? What can they do there? And I think that's the score at the time. I apologize if it isn't, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was at that time. But when Noah Gray had that touchdown, if I remember correctly, I'm going to pull it up and double check on the log. So it made 23-21.
Yeah, 23-21.
So, but it was 23-14. Chiefs went in, made it 20. Yeah, the touchdown made it. That drive made it 23-21. So, I'm going to study that drive relentlessly personally once the coach's phone comes up, and I'm just going to see what they were, because part of it is they probably get a good feel for what the Bills were doing defensively at that point and what they had changed up. And I know Romo mentioned in the broadcast that supposedly they'd been running zone a lot more in certain situations, and they're running man today from what he saw. But I mean, I'll be intrigued to kind of see just the variations of what they did to discourage the Chiefs and how much the tackle situation disrupted the rhythm of it. But the biggest thing the Chiefs are going to have to do in some of these games is they have to be okay with helping the tackles early. You're going to have to be okay with helping the tackles early. If that means running the ball, if that means having a tight end chip, if that means having a receiver chip or a running back chip, whatever they have to do, you got to be okay with that in those first 2-3 drives, because the purpose of what they need to do, in my opinion, going forward, is they need to get Mahomes into a rhythm quicker, get him going quicker. The Bills know with Josh Allen, if they let him go take off on a run, that's whenever he's got that S on his chest afterwards, and he's going to throw. He's going to throw some impressive passes because he's just connected in that moment, and he's able to feed off that moment. And so the Chiefs, I think, just need to figure out that way, and maybe that's Isaiah Pacheco running the ball. Maybe that's what they're missing right now that can help them. But I was just kind of surprised how little Juju Smith-Schuster and DeAndre Hopkins were involved in the offense. I thought they'd be more involved in today's game and have some moments. And so part of what I'm concerned about is whenever I do look at the coach's film, were there some moments that were actually there, but Mahomes had to bail because of pressure. And that's kind of what I'm wondering, because, I mean, that's what I felt in the moment, but it's always good to be able to watch where you don't have there's no emotion involved in it. It's just analysis. And so, like, that's kind of where I want to be even keel on that one. But, hey, we have a Thursday show to be able to talk about it. Or not Thursday, Tuesday.
Tuesday. That's right.
Tuesday show. I've got a lot of other stuff going on this week, too.
All right, I'm going to give my quick rant here. I won't go long.
Go for it. Light that candle, Matt.
My quick rant here is that, and this is not a message to all of you. This is a message to just some of you out there.
Just at me next time, okay?
Because I'm not going to lie. I saw a lot of pretty dismal takes from Chiefs fans after the game. And like I said, it's not all of you, just some of you, but too many for a team that's 9-1. I mean, is this team terrible to be 9-1? No. I mean, and you've got Patrick Mahomes. Is Patrick Mahomes playing the best football of his life? No. I mean, but do you have faith that Patrick Mahomes is going to play better? And especially once this team gets healthier, which they certainly seem to be the direction that they're going. I mean, if you can't be optimistic about that, I don't know. Enjoy yourself. This team is 9-1, and I'm not making any excuses for them. That's not my job. Don't need me to do it. But and maybe it's the Mizzou fan in me, Nick. I mean, I had suffered another heartbreaking loss on Saturday, but you know what? I mean, this is my team. I'm enjoying the ride because this is doesn't get any better than this. You're 9-1 and you're going for a three-peat. Enjoy yourself. If you are nitpicking and saying the sky is falling because you lost to the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo in November, well, guess what? I mean, you lose to Buffalo every year, it seems like, in November or October. And what happens? You beat them in January. That's the only thing that matters. And Patrick Mahomes said the exact same thing that you and I have been saying for weeks about this team going undefeated. That's not their goal. Didn't care about it.
Nope.
Don't care about it now. Didn't care about it before. Their goal is to win a Super Bowl. And this team has no concerns whatsoever about what's happening on November 17th. They're more concerned about what's going to happen in January and February. If you didn't learn your lessons from last year, that this team can sleepwalk through a season and turn it on in January, you are just incredibly short-sighted. So I'm just saying, enjoy the ride because it's going to get better.
I got nothing, Matt, and plus we need to wrap this up.
There you go. All right, Nick, 31-20, Chiefs are 9-1. We are going to be back, as you mentioned, Nick, Tuesday night, the Chiefs Digest Live Q&A. And then next week, Chiefs at Carolina. We'll be talking about that a little bit on Tuesday. And, of course, we'll be back on your feeds with 41 is the mic then. So, everybody, have yourself a good week.
Until next time, I bid you to do. It's Panthers week.
You've been listening to 41 is the Mic, presented by KSHB 41, your home of the Chiefs and Chiefs Digest.